Y'all, we're back with another update in the aftermath of the Karen Reed trial slash verdict, right? From Jump Street, was like, man, originally, I don't know what to think of this case because I wasn't following it as close the first time around, right? But basically, as the more time went on, my take was like, yo, I'm not 100% saying Karen Reed. She didn't. There's more to this story, basically, was my take, and there's no way they're going to convict this girl, being the long and the short of it. Pause. Right. And then we saw the jury foreman come out the other day and speak out, and basically it's just like more and more like, why would they retry this case like that? And it doesn't really make sense of it, that there just really was no way this girl's ever going to be, or was ever going to be, convicted. And like, now there's this stuff about swingers, you know what I mean? Did he like X parties and fucking I don't know, law enforcement being involved as well. I went into a whole nother rant and the other one about, like, with law enforcement, it's always bullshit when police are involved. It's so hard to prosecute police for things or whatever. So often they're able to duck out with going, retiring quietly or whatever, you know what I mean? But there's clearly more involved. A law enforcement officer lost their life, and it's like, are the feds going to step in and do something? I don't know. It's just all a mess. But here, we got these clips. Someone said, I'm absolutely astonished and appalled by how they managed to seat 12 morally bankrupt and / or mentally stunted jurors. So this person is saying they think Karen Reed should have been convicted, which is like, I'm seeing the vast majority sound off the other way than this. I weep for Peg O'Keefe. I hope she knows she has good karma coming her way, and she deserves it. And one day, Karen will get her comeuppance. And right here, that's someone resharing this. The foreman of the jury to give interviews, and just like Paul Prado, the more he talks, the more disturbing it gets. Here, after previously stating he needed to, quote unquote, orchestrate the deliberations, he calls the witnesses suspects and questions the way they were interviewed, much like Alan Jackson's 3 years of twisting things into the nefarious friends and family meetings. Yuri testified everyone who was there that morning, including Karen, all caps, who was interviewed with her father, a man who helped the defendant remove the murder weapon, according to the CW, was interviewed this way because of the trauma they had been through and the weather. The jurors continue to use the same terminology, reiterate they relied on things other than evidence they were presented, fail to acknowledge the evidence they were given, and continue to taunt the O'Keefes by calling for the quote-unquote real killers to be found. This is both shocking and deplorable. John O'Keefe's life mattered. He deserved better. So here's two people here. This original post and then the person who retweeted it, and what they said. They're like saying, yo, this is some bullshit, basically. But to me, there's more that went on. Okay, like I'm not this big Karen Reed supporter or anything like that, but there's just more to this. It's not as simple as a lot of these like individuals here. What they're saying, it ain't that simple, man. And like I said, I believe law enforcement being involved is a big part of why things haven't been dived into deeper in the way in which, like, sometimes with certain investigations, it's like things just don't make sense. The fact that it's law enforcement, and then I'm wondering about this swinger shit, these like Diddy-like parties, if that has something to do with it, because clearly there's something that they just don't want out there. But let's see what this guy's talking about. We saw the jury foreman in another video talking about, he was looking at things the way justice is supposed to be. Like, hey, she's innocent. You got to prove her guilty to me. So often that's how the justice system is supposed to work, but so often it doesn't go that way.
That have interviews with all the people all at once. That's supposed to be suspects. No one was separated. It was all done in one group. That alone, it just leaves so many speculations and everything. It was nothing to grasp on.
Why did you speak to her at her home rather than ask her or force her to come to the police station?
Same reasons we interviewed the witnesses.
the driving conditions, the time that it would take for her to respond, the comfort of her own home or her parents' home, where she had just experienced a very traumatic event, being concerned for her well-being. We interviewed her in the comfort of her parents' couch.
When you interviewed her in her parents' home, where was she seated?
On the couch.
So I'm going to just stop right here and say, I mean, I feel whatever you was saying. This isn't typically the way an investigation goes, you know, where someone's feet ain't foot to the fire, metaphorically speaking, or if that even is that even a thing? I don't know. Just, you know, it's just not typical. It's different when they haul you down to the station and put you in that room and start playing them mental games with you. I see what they're saying, like that's not the way things went. But this is what I'm saying. Just nothing is the way. There's nothing typical about this case at all, from the way it was handled to the trials, the investigation, and just hearing the aftermath more and more as things just kind of unravel. We're just seeing this is just not routine at all. You know what I mean? Obviously, we're dealing with loss of lives and stuff like that. So to look at things, but I'm just saying this is just a very different case, investigation, everything.
Of her parents' living room.
Where was her mother?
She was in the home. I don't have a specific memory of her being in the room with us, but her father was in the room with us.
Did you ever try to separate the defendant from her father when you interviewed her?
So I don't know. Again, I'm not this big Karen Reed supporter, but there's just way more to this case, is what I'm saying. And the fact that with the verdict that they initially had, that they went back around for trial number 2, really thinking they were going to get a conviction, just it shocks me, man. There's more about what went on in that house. I don't know, man. Everyone comment your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. You know what I mean? I don't claim to be no expert. I just lay it out and talk about things and just want everyone to engage and share their thoughts with me. Someone says, this is unbelievable. Let them keep talking. Can you imagine your fate in their hands? This woman says, no, this terrifies me. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Karen the only one who stopped her interview when she was asked about her driving? And Julie Carpenter responds and says, I cannot remember if Karen did or if they were done at that point. I think he said, final question, but not sure it was stopped for a reason. No group interviews were conducted. He didn't listen to the testimony at all. If he was a pro John O'Keefe juror, he would have been doxxed seconds after the first interview by the FKR and relentlessly harassed by TB, Turtle Boy, and the mob. That's another thing, too, that keeps coming up in these discussion, guys. Do you think Turtle Boy was, like, very instrumental into her being found not guilty or what? But for me, man, hearing the jury foreman, his take on it all, it's just clear to me, like, she was never going to be convicted. Someone says, what has become increasingly clear is that some members of the jury, particularly the foreman and juror 11, seem more interested in media attention than in respecting the serious responsibilities they were entrusted with. Referring to witnesses as suspects and admitting to orchestrating... Oh, no, we already read this one. Apologies, y'all. When you hear the jury foreman referencing state witnesses as suspects, does it motivate you to ask questions? Well, hey, comment your thoughts about the jury foreman and all that, but I mean, that's part of the process. Like, again, nothing about this case is or was typical, and we just see that more and more. It's just such an out-the-box situation, man. Calling the witnesses suspects. More proof Turtle bitch succeeded in doing exactly what he set out to do, influence a jury. What's up with his case, too, with his witness tampering case, guys? Anyone got an update on that? We'll read these last responses on the comment in this thread here on the screen, and then we'll close the video out. But make sure to subscribe and join the discussion once again. It's gross. What an abomination. Will the Boston media investigate or even question / do a story on this obviously tainted jury? There needs to be a minimum intelligence and literacy test for jurors. We have illiterate, innumerate, and low IQ citizens who do not qualify for such an important duty. First of all, All those people weren't suspects and had no reason to be considered suspects at that time. Again, jurors with an agenda. Well, listen, to me, there's a lot of people hiding stuff, so I'm not going to exactly call. But and when you're dealing with a homicide, I'm not saying you look at everyone as a suspect, but in a sense, you almost do, especially with such a bugged out case like this. This man made up his mind that Karen Reed was not guilty before the trial began. This is why he didn't take notes. In another interview, he said he looked at her and knew she was innocent. Wow. And then the last one we're going to read here. This is infuriating. This needs to be investigated. Listen to him talk. You can't put two coherent sentences together. What's that tell you? So, again, man, what a crazy case. And we just continue to see it more and more, man. Karen Reed, the case, I said this in another video, that just keeps giving. And I'm not saying that in an insensitive way where lives are lost and all that. I'm just saying, like, there's just so much to discuss about with this case. Like, it's just crazy at the end of the day. So thank you for watching. Look forward to hearing from y'all. Crime Time Podcast out.